What do you know about slavery in the United States today?
Exists. I don't know what extent to.
Little to nothing. I know that it happens in places that we wouldn't think it does.
About slavery? Well, I know that sex trafficking happens here a lot more than we think it does.
I know it's very prominent in some of the major cities, but other than that, I'm not too educated on the matter.
I don't really know much about sex trafficking. I know that it's a huge issue. I've heard a lot about.
I know that it's still going on. I don't know where really it's happening.
I know very little about it, but I am aware that it is a big problem, in our nation and really throughout the world.
If you had to give a rough estimate for the number of women and children trafficked in the United States, what would you guess?
It's probably in thousands. It's probably a lot more than I think.
4,000.
Maybe 5,000?
50,000?
I'd probably highball it and say, I don't know, 100,000.
The number is 300,000 women and children in the U.S. Describe your image of a prostitute. If you had to draw a picture of a prostitute, what sort of comes to mind?
I think of women in rough areas of cities or towns.
I think of a sketchy corner in this city, and with girls with little to no clothes on.
Red light district.
Okay.
Amsterdam, street corner. A woman on the street.
A skinny, young person, dirty, heels, little outfit, in a rougher neighborhood or so.
A young woman, skinny, not very much clothes on.
A young lady on a street, more of a provocative dress, makeup, but in the accentuated manner, a little overdoing.
Mostly out at night, not so well to do section of the city.
What do you think the average age is? What age do you imagine a prostitute being?
Probably a lot younger than we think. 17 to 25.
Late teens, early 20s.
25 to 40, I guess.
20 or 40.
20s.
The upper teens, somewhere between 17 and 21.
Anywhere from 16 to 25, so a younger age range.
The average age of entry into trafficking and prostitution is 12 years old. During the transatlantic slave trade, slaves were sold for an average of what today would be around $50,000, which seems if you had to put a price on a human life for that, it seems like a reasonable amount. How much would you expect a slave to cost today?
About roughly the same.
It was that much then. Maybe 200,000?
Yes,
200,000.
I would think it'd be pretty low.
I don't know, 300.
I'd expect the price to start somewhere around 700,000.
Probably a lot cheaper. It's probably 5,000.
The average cost globally is $90. Yeah.
Wow,
It's a bit overwhelming.
it is.
It is a shocking underworld.
It's the third highest moneymaker for organized crime.
Police say they're finding that more and more of them are children.
Florida as the third busiest sex trafficking jurisdiction.
It is a booming business.
Lured to the United States and then forced into prostitution.
The rising numbers are in large part due to the internet.
$32 billion in sex trafficking.
More girls going to be sold at the Super Bowl than probably tickets.
Romantic promises with job promises.
Usually associate with faraway places like Thailand or Cambodia.
The streets of many American cities.
Sex trafficking in Augusta.
A brothel in San Francisco.
The Bay Area is fast becoming a hotbed. Streets of Miami.
Husteton, Texas, one of the top cities in the country.
Secret locations in the Atlanta area. A big business in Oakland.
Charlotte authorities busted a couple for sex trafficking.
Human trafficking is here in North Carolina.
And the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Promised a good life in the United States.
Here in the United States.
In this country.
Brought to the U.S.
Here in the U.S.
In this country.
The average
modern day.
Some of them as young as 13 years old.
Brought up smuggling.
Sold for their bodies.
Someone is
Hoping that I get in a
just
car
dire need
accident
of some
and have my face
And another thing that
Brought up smuggling.
Some of them as young as 13 years old.
Immediately forced into prostitution.
these are crimes that the public doesn't see, that the public doesn't want to believe. Overwhelmingly, this is America's dirty little secret.
We are humans. We are not animals. Please think of us as your child. Just once, please think of us as your child. It's so hard for me to live my life. It's very hard for me to live.
I'm Kate Miller. My name is Sydney Bayshore. I'm a student at Appalachian State, and I'm a former intern for an anti-trafficking organization in North Carolina. Prostitution, I mean, it looks differently everywhere that you go, and in some places you will find the stereotypical, what you would envision as a prostitute. So, you know, you think of really tall high heels, really short skirts, or skimpy amounts of clothing. But a lot of times it's also that 13-year-old girl in her outfit after school that can't go home to anyone and has to pay to stay in the pimp's house. And I mean, prostitution just looks so different than what people think it is. And in the United States, I think a lot of it has to do with age, because you assume it's going to be a 29 or 30-year-old woman who couldn't come up with any other way to make money, but it doesn't look like that here. And a lot of it is so undercover that you're not going to see girls just walking along the street. It's a very undercover business, especially when you're working with minors.
Domestically, it's estimated that there are 200 to 300,000 women and children enslaved in sex trafficking in the U.S. today. And those are just an estimated number. There's really no way of tracking that, but it's very safe to say that they're way off and very small compared to the reality in numbers. In the United States, sex trafficking can be disguised as forced prostitution, just prostitution in general, massage parlors, escort services, dating relationships with older men and young girls, and even just strange family relationships.
I think there's a lot of things that people are doing. People are seeing kind of the cycle of supply and demand, and if there's no demand, there will be no supply. So as far as the men's way of attacking this is that if men can step up and keep men from buying women and keep men from looking at porn and in turn leading to buying women, there's a huge thing that can be done there, and there's a lot of men advocacy groups rising up. And as far as the aftermath of trafficking, that's kind of where girls get to come in, because we have this specific area that we can speak truth into their lives and work with them in a way that men can't. And so there's a lot of things that are done with, like, you know, aftercare centers and different classes, and there's a lot of therapy that's coming out for sexual trauma abuse victims and things like that. But also one of the biggest ways that people can help is through having a facility where girls can come and heal and be restored and to grow and to be reminded of who they were created to be. So that's kind of where one of my good friends and I have kind of taken on this task of designing a safe home for women out of trafficking. And it's designed specifically to shelter domestic victims that are under the age of 18.
Treehouse is a dream that my friend Kate and I have decided to start pursuing and designing. The Treehouse is a safe home for girls under the age of 18 who are victims of sex trafficking in the United States. We've started research and outlining a business plan for the Treehouse this semester as a part of our senior thesis. The home will be for girls who are under the age of 18 from wherever in the United States, and while they're at the Treehouse, they will be able to have a safe place to live and provided with the appropriate resources from professionals and counseling, with like medical attention and case management. We also desire to allow them to pursue their dreams and whatever they wish to do. So we want to have programs for them to develop their interests and any opportunities for them to pursue those after they graduate from the Treehouse program.
A young lady that came to Appalachian State I met her off campus at a program. We were talking about her past, and she described to me and others that were there that she was raised by her mother. She didn't know a father. Her mother worked the streets, and that's how she made her living. And her mother was one that was well sought after, because if you got her mother, then you got her. One day she woke up and the client from the evening before was next to her in bed, and her mother was on the other side. As she started moving around, she realized the man, the client, wasn't moving. So she began to poke and see he didn't move. Well, he was dead. He had died from an overdose that was taken. And so she said, I actually sat up and said, no more. She said, my goal at that moment, my goal was, I'm going back to school. She had dropped out of school because her job was with her mother. I'm going back to school. And I'm going to graduate when my graduating class finishes. I'm going to finish. So she got in school and she had to go to night classes at a community college, and she took her courses and she graduated, and she delivered the class valedictorian address. So it just shows the talent and the ability. So she came here and I said, what do you want to do? So she said, it doesn't matter. I'm going to make a difference in her world. I am going to do it. Well, she got admitted, she came to school, and she had a wonderful experience. She graduated. She's now living not too far from here, but she has a little child now, and so she's married, and I think she's got her feet on the ground for a great future that's there. But it just shows the talent that is there, that is being used and abused by others, and I just find that intolerable.